Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Night Live, brought to you by CrowCast, of course. In the strangest of circumstances, no one could ever have believed that we would be in this position, but here we are. And I think the best thing that we can do as Crows fans, as a football community, is take a bit of time out and just talk about the footy for a while. And joining me on this special intermission podcast as we break in the season is everyone to do with the podcast. I've got Peter. How are you going, Pete?
Hi, mate. How are you all? How are we going?
Very good. Macca, how are you going, mate?
Yep, no, fighting fit and ready to go, mate.
Very good. Nikki, how are you?
I'm going very well, although I thought you called it one and done.
And Donkey, how are you going, mate?
Yeah, look, going all well up here. Big fan.
Very good, very good. Glad to hear that everyone is well. Hopefully everyone who's tuned in live or listening on demand is also well. It's terrible circumstances at the moment. My family's been affected. I'm sure everyone's family or circle of friends has been affected in some way. So we'll try not to dwell on it too much because we all know what the problems are. But why don't we start talking about? Let's talk about the Gold Coast game first of all. Let's get that out of the way. Gold Coast game. What am I talking about? The Sydney Swans game. Yeah. And so it begins.
Well, I want to have a first crack at it. And
yeah, sure.
Really, to me, it showed the problems that we thought might be there. And if we look at the two last series games, problems in the middle, where we got thrashed 20-5 with clearances, and overall 60-45 with clearances. To me, I think it's definitely a lack of intensity. There's a lack of the way it's set up in the middle. I think that's very wrong. And also, I thought we had, the matches at the back with Heaney was a poor one with Kelly, and I think it also showed that Smith's going to have to pay in the back line to give us some dash out of the back line, because there were some good things. Don't get me wrong. Not everything was bad, but I'm just the things that I saw there about problems. They're going to be problems all year unless something's done about them. And, for example, another one I did think, and I will be critical, I couldn't believe that Nix was happy with Gibbs's game. I was very disappointed with him. To me, he looked like a player who was struggling even at the SANFL level at the moment on his performance. I thought he was very, very ordinary. But Nix seemed to be happy with it. And to me, when you've got some very good lads who could have played and who I thought did very, very well, like Hamill, I thought, for example, it would have been perfect opportunity. But overall, and Robbo and Brian surprised because he actually, I thought, got beaten by a person I've always regarded as a hack in Naismith, who at least broke even of not beating him. And our forward line had moments of functioning in the first quarter and moments in the last quarter, very dysfunctional in between. But that's got a lot to do with the delivery coming from the lines up forward. So that's my first contribution to it, and let somebody else take over from there.
Well, and that was the podcast. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening tonight. That was our wrap of the game. Bloody hell, Macca. Donkey, what do you think?
I was just going to say, you haven't got me for waffling.
Yeah. Well, I've got to get you back, Nikki.
This is why we push you both to Sunday night.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Donk, what do you reckon in 2,000 words or less?
Look, two things stuck out to me, like the proverbials. One was our skills and execution that we had a bit of a chat about in the virtual stadium chat on the weekend. And the second thing for me was just the intensity. So, there was some structure stuff and there was some, there might have been a bit of run that we're missing, but, you can't win too many games of football missing targets 30 metres away and spraying kicks off the side of your boot that should be getters. And you can't win games of football when, they have 80% of the ball in that, in a period and you play 10 less tackles on them. So for me, that was the disappointing parts of that. It was the intensity and skill. Although the rays of sunshine is, when we were playing some good footy and moving the ball well and quick, it looked really good. And we did get some blood into the young guys in Jones, Fogarty, McCasey, Davis, and probably one of them I've forgotten. But, and that's a good thing too. So, would have been nice to have the win and be winners for 3 months. But, alas, this is where we are.
Just before I get your take, Pete, for those of us who have joined us on Discord, that's fantastic. The more people listening in who join us on Discord, the better, because it amalgamates everyone's chat from all the different platforms that we're broadcasting on. So get around it. If you do come in to Discord, head to the live show chat channel. It's under CrowCast Live Shows. Don't forget, you don't even have to be a Discord member or have a Discord account. You can just go to AFL CrowCast, click on the not live chat menu item, and then go to the little chat box down there, stick a name in, and you're good to go. So anyway, Pete, what did you reckon?
So just two things for me. One, I was very, very disappointed with the selection that saw us retain the forward 7 ruck structure. Neither Frampton or Himmelberg deserved to be selected. And I think that it's a mistake to stick with the structure when you don't have the player to support it. I think that you need to reward players who are in form and build your structure around that. And so I thought Crocker in particular was very unlucky not to be selected. I thought he had a pre-season, and I thought that they would have done better to accommodate him somewhere.
I agree.
And to have left out Frampton at 16-minute quarters, there's really no reason that O'Brien couldn't have done the bulk of ruck and then got a few other people to chip in. But anyway, that was the first thing for mine. The second thing was just how disappointing the midfield was. After really promising form in the pre-season, I thought that Brodie Smith was putrid. 7 possessions. Just doesn't cut it, and how he remains a fan favourite and continues to escape scrutiny is a real true to me. But anyway, I thought he was rotten. Our centre clearances were diabolical. I can't remember what it was, some ridiculous stat about how we were beaten out of the centre.
20-5.
20-5, and so you're just not going to win games of football when you're getting done out of the centre 20-5 like that.
Yeah.
There was a number of occasions where Sydney doubled up on goal through quick centre clearances, and so that really was, for me, that was, and you very difficult to pin too much on the defence when you've got the ball coming in like that, quick out of the centre. So they were the two things for me.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with much of that, Peter, to be honest with you. We got absolutely pummeled in the centre. Some of that, I think, was to do with O'Brien's ineffectiveness in ruck in general. But again, we run with weird combinations, the 2 Crouches and Sloane. We lacked intensity at the coalface. We just allowed them first use far too often. JPK killed us as usual. I felt that even though our forward line at times looked a little bit more potent, it still lacked any sort of cohesion. And I thought our defence battled manfully without being world beaters. There were a couple of notables, though. I thought Lukey Brown got hammered by Papley. And that was key because it actually caused us to have to reshuffle, drop Laird back, and also drop Miller back to combat Heaney. I think that really messed around with how we intended to run out of defence because we had those guys playing a lot deeper than what we intended to, I believe. I agree with you on Frampton, particularly with the 16-minute quarters. It was probably superfluous to have another tall. I guess you could counter that by the fact that they were looking for a bailout target so that didn't become Fogarty. But really, it was ineffectual. They didn't make the most of Frampton. I didn't think Frampton made very good position. And I didn't think our entries into forward 50 really did our forwards many favours. The one thing I guess that I would point out is that despite the fact that a couple of our youngsters were a little bit unsighted, like Chase Jones. Again, it was our senior players that let us down. And to me, it just is indicative of the need to really turn this squad over quickly, because these senior players are the senior players that we've run with for 10 years, and I think we all agree that as good as some of them have been, they are past their prime, and we really need to hand the keys over, Peter. Bryce Gibbs getting a run instead of Hamill. We need to hand those keys over to the young lads.
Yep.
Cop the
No
pain.
question.
Cop the pain. Let them get some games in. Let them form their own culture. Let them form their own cohesion. You know what I mean? You've got to get that group together. All the good teams that have come up and won flags in the last 10 years have come up as a group, and that's what we need to do. Not have one or two new players amongst a bunch of oldies. We need to have a new group, let them learn together, let them build together, and let them play together so that they get to understand how each other plays.
It's such a great point, Fian. And the thing is that, as those of us that follow the sample knows, that those guys built that culture last. They really, really did. Guys like Hamill and Scholl, all these players that I can't think of the top of my head, but there's a whole range of them, and they really did. They really built a culture in the twos last year, and that's how they got to a brilliant final. And they played a lot of football together. Yeah, and you can see on social media a lot of photos of them, doing stuff together, and they're tight, very tight. And if what we're seeing is just their little piecemeal bits and pieces of them coming in. And you're right, that it needs to be handed over to those guys.
Yeah, go on, mate.
I was just going to say, I think we're all basically saying the same thing in that. If you look, it's the old story. If you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. And some of those players in there, and look, I thought Bryce was a classic of it, and Hamill should have been in that spot. That's just my opinion. But and I also agree about Frampton didn't earn his spot up forward. And I think you've got to make if you're either going to do one of two things. If you're going to put senior players in there or players that. And they have to earn their spot. And as Peter said, a lot of our players really earned their spot last year by they did their service in the twos and their apprenticeship. And now, if you're never ever going to hire them as a senior, well, you're never going to go anywhere. And we're not talking about winning games because they're going to make errors, etc. But it's if you're going to get a premiership down the track, you do have exactly what Feed said. You have to build up a squad that comes up together. I mean, it won't be 100% altogether, but the bulk of it will come up together and form that combination that will eventually get you there because they play as a team and they understand it and they understand each other and they work for each other and they love each other. And but at the moment, I thought it was a very disparate show. Actually, we had blokes like Smith not performing, Gibbs not performing. And Kelly got his arse thrashed, and look, we could have had young blokes there, and they would have done just as well. And so
that's
I think
the key, Mac, isn't
correct.
it? That's the key, Mac, isn't it? And Pete, just watch your headset there, mate, a little bit. And apologies to people listening. The network is, and I don't think it's me. I think it's just the general bandwidth that people are smashing at the moment. Pete, I think your headset might be scratching against something.
Yes, sorry, I'm just I'm trying to pick up a little bit of the Prime Minister's speech. I think he's about to put us all away. So anyway.
Yeah, I think so too.
Keep going.
Yeah. Oh shit! What was I saying?
About the group coming up together, etc.
Oh yeah, like if you look at teams like Richmond and a couple of years ago the Western Bulldogs, but look at Richmond. They've got a core group of really good players, and the senior players that were left over from their previous core squad, they've had to adapt. You look at the way Jack Revolt plays now compared to how Jack Revolt played back 5-6 years ago. He's a completely different player. He's embraced the team culture, whereas previously he was very, I think, very focused on his own performance and thought that he had to carry the load. Now he values being able to bring other players into the game and, you know, playing up the ground and playing a more versatile role. And, you know, it's one thing that I think our squad lacks is the ability to play different roles. You're not going to see Matt Crouch play anything other than in and under. You're not going to see Tex Walker play anything other than lead up forward. You know, these guys are dyed in the wool in terms of what they bring, and we've seen what they bring, and it's not enough, unfortunately. So these older guys, they either have to adapt to a new game plan and a new group and some new roles, or they need to give way to the younger lads who are champing at the bit. Anyway, look, for all that said and done, we had an opportunity to win it with a couple of minutes to go. We were in it for large portions of the game. Sydney, I think if we'd played a few more seasons, I don't think their form would have held up very well. I don't think they necessarily played a great style of football. I think they were just more effective in key areas, their midfield and their conversion up forward. But, you know, again, 5 years ago, do you reckon Tex would have nailed that goal 9 times out of 10?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, but I do agree with the coach. You can't blame Tex because if the rest of the team had played better all game, we wouldn't have been in that situation.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, Macca. You take the opportunities when they present themselves. And that line about, you know, oh, yeah, no, what about all the other stuff? So that's all fair enough. But at the end of the game, Tex had an opportunity from his pet range to kick the ball through the middle on his home ground where he would have kicked 1,000 goals in practice and whatever, and he never even looked like it.
Well, he didn't hit it sweet, unfortunately. It was a little bit off the side of the boot, and that's where it went. And you're right. There's no, I'm not making any excuses for him. He would have normally kicked it. I understand that. But I don't think the result really matters that much because I think what we showed, whether we won or whether we lost, what we saw is not really what we want for the long-term future.
No. And let's put it in perspective. It was game one of the Knicks era. We are in a transition. Long way to go. I think what we saw and what we've seen in the pre-season exposes us for a bit of lack of class. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's how I feel. A bit of 100%. Class in the middle and 100%. Probably a classy forward. I think we're quite well served down back. I think, with Duday and Hamill coming through and Butts and a couple of others and Mackesy looked all right.
Mackesy.
Yeah. I think down back we're actually looking okay, which is odd considering a couple of years ago we were probably a bit worried about our defence. But up forward we lack a classy marking forward. And in the midfield we miss some silk, don't we?
Well, and Payne, it was exactly what we discussed in the rev up, that what was going to happen with Kennedy. And
yeah.
And it happened.
Yeah. Are you sitting in the toilet? It sounds like you're miles away.
I think she is.
Hang on, I'll turn it up.
Because if you're sitting in the toilet, I want a toilet paper report. Basically, because things are a bit grim at my place.
I've got a new headset. Is that louder?
Yes, that's not bad. And you're right, Nick. We did talk about it at the rev up. Go on, Don.
I was going to say that's why we're only eating cheeseburgers from Macca's at our house because they come in a wrap and you can use it. You can use it afterwards. That's right.
Don't flush it though.
And it's hard to tell the before and after, isn't it, Don?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, that'd be right.
So, look, that's really all that we can say about the game, and I guess we should move on to the bigger issue, which is what's happening with the AFL in general. And, of course, before the end of the first round, Gill announced that that was stumps on day one, and optimistically said that we were postponed until the end of May. No chance in hell that we're back in June. I wouldn't have thought, not unless the government changed their strategy pretty quick. And it leaves a lot of people in the football industry out of work. We heard that I think it's 80% have been stood down.
Yeah, it'd be 80 to 90% of the people would be out of work.
The players have taken a 50% pay cut. I read where Chris Scott has actually foregone his salary this year.
100%.
Yeah, you'd imagine that Gill and the executive would do likewise. And even with all that sacrifice, we're still not safe in having a competition at the end of all of this.
Well, when you think about it, I mean, we're talking about massive amounts of money, and I have no doubt that's why they wanted to get one game underway. I read somewhere that if they didn't actually have one game, they didn't have a season, and therefore their insurance policies were invalid.
Yeah,
and,
I wondered whether there was some sort of contractual thing, Mac, either with the media rights or something like that.
By having the one game, they've invoked the fact their insurance policies, whatever they may be, do come into play because they are having a season. But in terms of, it was always a forlorn hope. It was only ever going to be the one game, and I think Gill's been sitting with fingers crossed just to get that one game in. Coming back to what you said though about will they resume on the beginning of July? Very unlikely. You do have to think very unlikely. I would think that, I don't know what the Prime Minister is actually announcing at the moment, but you'd have, if it's not a total lockdown now, it's going to be a total lockdown within a few days anyhow. And those lockdowns, we have let it get out of control too quickly. We haven't done all the right things properly, and we've been slow to react. And it's going to probably take a bit longer than it should.
Yeah.
What's your take, Peter? He's watching ScoMo, I think. Donk,
Yeah,
what do you reckon?
Did you say donkey?
Yes, I did.
Sorry. No, it's just a bit. The M-Band's under a bit of duress here at this house. I think we're doing 3 different Netflix at once. But,
yeah.
We. Yeah. Look, I'm kind of happy they got in a game. I'm happy we got to watch a little bit of footy and just have a little bit of normalcy. I was hoping we'd maybe get 2 or 3 just because it's going to feel very unnormal the next few weeks, and it's going to get really yucky. A lot of people lost their jobs this week. We've seen queues out the front at Centrelink that are miles long. Anyone in hospital, anyone in hospitality was basically just put off overnight. Without too much warning, really. And there's so many. And then you look at absolute. Alan Joyce, who is trying to airplane monopoly in Australia while we're all going through this and taking big government bailouts and then standing down all his staff. So it's just it's one of those ones where it is a lot bigger in footy, and footy's hurting and going to do it tough too. Just the projections and things that I've been reading, within the next 3 weeks, probably around the weekend of the 17th of April, it's going to be really yucky here. And if our hospitals get overwhelmed, it's going to be around. They say with this virus, it spreads at one person can spread to 3 people, or will spread to 3 people a day. So if you track that over 10 folds, that's 59,000 people. I pick up from a video today. So it's just one of these ones that spreads really, really quickly. Whereas the flu only spreads at 1.4, so after 10 days or 10 folds of that, it's only 14 people. So that's the difference of what we're dealing with here, and that's why it is creeping and changing by the hour. And there's people that have known it was coming, but no one's really had any idea of what you do. Like, how do you shut down a country? And that's what we're all dealing with right now.
Yeah, but it does have to be done, because otherwise, if you don't. I think you do have to take the drastic step of total lockdown, and it's tragic what happened with people's livelihoods and that. And I am pleased the government is talking about financial bailouts for these people, because it's not their fault. They're just victims like everybody else. But because there are so many irresponsible people who don't observe all the rules about, the social distancing and making sure that they, if they've got coughs or colds or there could be actually symptoms, and a lot of them have done nothing about it because they're youngish and it doesn't really bother them, and then they pass it on to many others. So that's why it ends up having to have a lockdown. Not so much, well, the thing is a very vigorous type of thing, but it's aided by the people who just won't do the right thing. At Bondi Beach, for example.
No, that's a load of bullshit, Mako. That's a load of bullshit. I agree that people not socialising certainly, not social isolating certainly contributes to the problem. But the simple fact is, and I tweeted this a while back, we live on a fucking island, and we saw this coming. We had weeks to prepare. And all we had to do was shut the borders and test everyone that came in and isolate those that had the virus, and this wouldn't be happening. They absolutely shat the bed.
I've agreed with you privately about that. I totally agree.
Shat the bed. And yes, people need to socially isolate now and all the rest of it. But the message that you've sent for the previous 3 or 4 weeks is it's okay, we got this. And then all of a sudden you're saying, we've got to socially isolate. Oh, except that we'll keep shopping centres open, and we'll keep cafes open for a little bit, and we'll keep hairdressers okay, but you can't go to the gym. The messaging is not urgent enough.
And most importantly, as someone who is the partner of a teacher, and I have 2 children, the continuing decision to keep schools open is just an absolute disgrace. And I'll tell you what, wouldn't have thought that I'd said this. I stuck with him through the bushfires, but that's it. I am done. There's no way in the world I would ever vote for this clown again. That's it. Totally done. Keeping the schools open when you're shutting everything else down and allowing teachers to cop that risk they're just babysitters. Is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true. They're just being used as
disgraceful.
Babysitters.
Used as porn babysitters.
I mean, he literally came out and said it, Pete. He literally came out and said it. He came out and said it. He said, if we shut the schools, then the grandparents are going to have to look after the kids. In other words, we're keeping the schools open so the teachers can look after the kids.
And every other country in the world's closing their schools.
Yeah, and the fact is...
This numbskull is keeping them open.
And again, mixed messages. Oh, the kids, they only get mild symptoms, blah, blah, blah. But they still get the damn virus. Yeah. So they still carry the damn virus. I made the personal
by the way,
decision.
if you keep them home, don't let them out the shopping centre because they might infect.
How ridiculous was that? Yeah, they're going to be wandering the streets, these kids. My lad stayed home from Monday. He's 12 years old, and without even asking, he's got hold of his teacher, got some work, and sat there doing work. I mean, these politicians, they're just so out of touch. They're so out of touch. My
partner spends half a day now, teacher, fucking wiping down desks.
Yeah, that's
she
right.
wipes down desks and chairs and keyboards. That's what her job is now.
Yeah.
By the way, Feen, I totally agree with what you said at the beginning, and because it's an imported virus because we allow people to come into it. So I'm totally agreeing with everything you said there. What I'm saying is now that we've got to this situation that they have effed it up at the beginning and we've got running rampant and Pete's piped up about the schools, they just have to go total lockdown, just shut it down. And otherwise, it'll just keep going and getting worse and worse.
Well, we've got 2 options. We either lock it down like China did and ride it out for 2, maybe 3 months, and then eradicate it, which is the plan that China did, and successfully, it looks like. Or you do the flatten the curve strategy, and we're cooked for 6 months. And basically, they've got about 5 minutes left to decide if they want to go down the eradication path. And I don't know anyone, personally, that wouldn't be in favour of a couple of months of hard lockdown over 6 to 12 months of economic pain.
Yeah, I agree.
And more infections and more deaths, just spread over a longer period.
Yep. Just bring it back to a football sense, though.
Yeah, that's right, footy.
Do you think that, well, and I think it does depend on which strategy they adopt, whether we will actually have football again this year or not. But the AFL are virtually talking about they're open until playing games until December, and the players are agreeing. And let's say we did go down on extreme lockdown and it lasted, say, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and then it seemed that life is gradually coming back to normal. Do you think that we will get in the full season being the 17 games they're talking about now, or do you think that this is a pipe dream? What's your thoughts?
Pipe dream.
Yeah, I think the biggest indicator for me is that part of Scotty from marketing's stimulus plan is forward paying, like flagging payments in June, July. So unless they have a massive change in strategy, they're already planning ahead. They're already planning for paying in June, July. So
that's a very good point when you look at it that way.
If they were looking for a big, hard, quick lockdown, they wouldn't be talking about June, July. They'd be talking about April, May. I
still think they're going to have to change their strategy and go down that path, because that's where all other countries are doing. China did it, and they've done it successfully. They've had 5 successive days of 0 new cases, and well, that's what they say. All the other many other countries are in total lockdown now, and I think we'll eventually have to do that. But having said that, let's just say, for example, we did come out the other side in August. Do you think then that they will go and have a season of some sort, and from there, from August till December?
Well, I'm sure they'll try, but I just don't see. There's just so many layers to this, Macca. I mean, the financial implications with them having to go into massive debt just to keep themselves operational, and how they then spend those borrowed funds, I guess, in trying to get something together. I guess they immediately start generating income from TV, but what level of engagement is it going to be? I don't know. There's a whole lot of questions, isn't there? I would say though that I supported Lee Matthews' comments today in relation to the players, who I think are the ones that are really coming off very badly in all of this. And Jack Rewalt's little tantrum on 360, trying to let everybody know how wonderful they actually are because they played in the bushfire game. Their attitude and the way that they're now, when there are people around their clubs losing their jobs, and being stood down left, right, and centre, and yet still they hang on and they're bartering. Gill wants them to take basically 80% cut until I think it's June, and they're stuck on 50%. It's pretty disgraceful, I think, and some of the stuff from some of the other players, like so Isaac Smith saying that some of the players live from pay to pay and all this kind of stuff, and it's really it's unsightly, it's unseemly. I think that they've really damaged their own reputations.
Well, I understand what the AFL are trying to do. That they are, basically with the TV rights, which is worth about between 400 and 500 million, and every game that they can get onto the TV station minimises that loss. In the meantime, of course, the clubs are going to lose their backsides individually. Adelaide were talking about it'll probably affect their bottom line by 8 to 10 million, and they're a club that are profitable. And then you've got a situation where somebody was talking about and releasing the fact that there were 6 that are on the drip feed, including Port Adelaide, from the AFL, and their losses are going to be even bigger again. And the AFL are going to help fund these losses to some degree by borrowing, want to get the federal government to go as their guarantor so they can borrow from the banks against Marvel Stadium to make sure they can keep their competition afloat. But are they going to pour good money after bad, like keeping the Gold Coast going, etc. And after this particular, say there's no games played this year, why would you keep Gold Coast going? Why would you keep North Melbourne going? Why would you keep St Kilda going?
No, exactly. This actually might be time for a bit of nice old economic rationalisation on the competition, to be honest, because it's just got a bit. And the other thing too is the world's not going to turn on as fast as it turned off.
No, it's going to be a slow comeback. And so
it'll be a slow comeback, and it'll be a very slow comeback. I agree. I just think that the players in particular, they've really surfed, the good times. And we all know who they are. They've made a huge amount of money, and I'm not going to. It's difficult to draw too many comparisons when you got NBA players on, really, really seriously ridiculous, huge salaries, right? But where has there been anything at all, any care whatsoever shown by those players to those people who run their clubs?
That's right.
There's been nothing. There's been not a single word. You've got NBA players now. Admittedly, I acknowledge they're on higher salaries, but they're picking up the tab of people on the front office. You know that they pick up a lot of those NBA players. They're picking up the tab. They're making sure that even the guys that sell the popcorn are getting paid, and they're paying them out of their own salaries. And so, no one's suggesting that, a single AFL player is going to be able to, but, has a team banded together, has a team done anything like what Chris Scott did today, and said that he'll just keep going and not draw a salary.
Oh, that's a magnificent gesture.
He's obviously done okay he would have done incredibly well out of coaching Geelong for 10 years or however long it's been. And he's quite happy to put in the hard yards and say, you know what, I'll coach for nothing. What have the players done? They've done absolutely nothing except whinge and bitch about how much they're not going to get paid, and still haggle about the percentage that they're going to get. I mean, they just make me sick, to be honest.
And do you think, Pete, that once, let's say for example, there's no games played this year, that's going to really virtually bankrupt the AFL? Do you think that they should then continue to try and fund clubs like the Gold Coast, Melbourne, St Kilda?
Well, it's an interesting thought, Macca, and I'd be interested to see, Finn, your thoughts on this as well. Is how you see that that playing out? I think there's a really good opportunity for a competition to be rationalised and restructured. They won't want to do that, of course. Particularly, they won't want to go to less teams because they'll see that as being less money. And they'll need every cent that they can get to pay back their loans. But I don't know. It would certainly be a good opportunity.
There's a way around that, of course, Pete, though. Let's say, for example, you knock out 4 teams and you go from 18 to 14. You have a minor round of 26 games. So you can actually keep your TV dollars up by having the 26 weeks of a minor round. And to me, you're not pouring money down the drain. I mean, every dollar they go give towards the Gold Coast is just going down the toilet. It's just going down the toilet. North Melbourne is a hopeless case. Even Port Adelaide, they're subsidising Port Adelaide as well. So the ones that are really bad, I think they just got to go.
I've just put up a really good quote that I think it was Nicky put in Discord. It was you, wasn't it, Nick? A guy saying, "I'm in love with a Spanish biologist who was pressed by media about why it was taking her so long to find a cure for coronavirus. She responded, you give athletes €1 million a month salary and biologists €1,800 a month. Go ask Cristiano Ronaldo to find a cure." And therein lies a bit of the rub, isn't it? We pay these athletes obscene amount of money, and yet no one's life is hanging on whether they kick a goal or point, and yet they act so entitled when it comes to their own salaries in the grand scheme of things. Look, in terms of competition rationalisation, I wouldn't mind betting that we might actually see a 2-tier system on the back of all this. I reckon we might actually end up with I don't think they are going to want to kill off a club. I think that would be a look that the VFL / AFL couldn't cop it. But I think what they might do is rationalise the competition and have, say, a 10 or 12 team the Premier League for want of a better term, and I think they might either push the other teams back to the VFL, or they might have a second tier, like a second division, and run the remaining teams on a bit more of a shoestring. I don't think they'll kill off a club, but I wouldn't mind betting, just for pure economics, they just won't be able to afford to run an 18-team competition, so that'll force some clubs out of the competition.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I see it, and it would be madness to go back to the formula that they had, which was running rampant out of control and demanding bigger and bigger dollars. For example, the soft cap issue. I think it's up to about 9 or 10. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but talking about dropping it back down to 6K, which means again a lot of poor people that are who've lost their jobs, they're not going to get their jobs back. At least 40% of them aren't. And although I think the creature has become too bloated. In other words, instead of being a football club with a coach and a couple of development people, etc., there's a man to do this, and a man to do that, and a man to do that, or a woman to do this or that, and there's too many of them, and they just actually get into more and more detail, looking for that little bit of edge. Well, just recruit the right players, train them properly, and play properly.
I think that's a good point, Macca.
Do it on less money.
Good
on
point.
less money.
I heard someone else on SEN or maybe on one of the footy shows talking about the fact that a lot of the operational side of football is going to go back to semi-professional. You're not going to have a full-time doctor anymore. You're going to have a doctor that consults to the club. You're not going to have full-time physios. You're going to have physios that consult to the club, because apart from anything else, these medical people now are out of work because they're employed by the club. So I don't think you're going to have the same level of full-time staff. You're going to have a lot more consulting to the club, a club, even a massive club like Adelaide or West Coast or Collingwood or whatever, all that revenue down the toilet, and even though your operating costs are probably slashed, by 3/4, you've still got to keep the club going. So
yes, you do.
And it's the same with the AFL. They've still got to keep the AFL going. Who knows what's going to happen with the media rights? Whether they're going to be able to nut out some sort of compensation deal with Channel 7, because obviously they're not going to meet their contractual obligations for the year. And sure as eggs, someone's going to have to pay for that in the cold hard light of day. Fox and 7 aren't going to just cop that one on the chin, I don't think. And whether that be in compensation or whether that be in terms of the next pay deal, the media rights deal, who knows? But it's money that the AFL are not going to have. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens going forward.
You're quite right, Pete, because either they're going to have to pay it back this year or it'll come off of next year. So one way or other, they're not going to have the money. And the other interesting thing too is contracts for players. Does that mean that, even given the fact that the clubs haven't gotten as much money, are they, for example, players on $1 million a year, are they still going to get the $1 million a year next year?
I don't know, but just for everyone listening, Pete's going to be in there in a minute.
Yeah, sorry guys, I've got.
You can drop out, mate, if you like.
I've got high anxiety in this house at the moment because, as I said, we've got 2 kids at school and a teacher in the house. So
that's cool.
I'm being called away.
Yeah, all the best to the family down, Pete.
Cheers.
Well, catch you later, Pete.
See you guys.
Just on the kind of the money angle and in terms of the TV rights, etc. It's really interesting what's actually happening with supercar drivers. Is that they're actually going to run an esports.
They've already started.
Homes actually have. Yeah, they've already started, but they're actually going to run a competition and like a championship.
Yep. And
with all those professional drivers, and it's going to be on KO and Foxtel. So they're actually finding other ways around it.
Well, you can go on a YouTube at the moment and see Max Verstappen and Lando Norris and a few others driving in the E-Series using the iRacing car simulation game, and some of their setups for car simulators are fantastic. But it's a really good point, Nick, because you allow me to segue onto something that I've been thinking about doing, and damn it, I'm just going to do it. So in a couple of weeks, AFL Evolution 2 is released. I think it's April 14 or 17 or something like that. And by all reports, it's actually not too bad. So at CrowCast, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to start up a AFL Evolution competition. Whether we challenge whether we challenge other podcasts, whether we just throw it open to our listener base to form their own team, and we have a competition within the CrowCast community. It'll be live streamed. We'll have Discord going, all the rest of it, for no other reason than it gives it an opportunity to share in our passion of football and make ourselves look stupid because we're actually really bad gamers.
Oh, we're good at that. I'm really good at that.
So keep an eye out for that, and we're going to keep going every Tuesday night anyway. But keep an eye out for that once AFL Evolution is released. I think it's going to be about $100, so it's a massive rip-off, but that's okay. We've got nothing else to do. And
how would you take another podcast thing?
Well, we'll just get in touch with them and say buy a copy of AFL Evolution and get a team up, and we'll play you online.
Okay.
So it's easy. These are us young whippersnappers, Macca. Just leave it to us, mate. But we'll get something going anyway, and it'll be good fun. It'll be live streamed. We'll have lots of banter and shit talk flying around, and it'll give us a bit of an escape from what's sure to be a bit of a bleak couple of months.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a very, very empty couple of months because all we're going to hear is bad news in this period of time. That's all we're going to get.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the thing is that, you know, to all the listeners out there, we're going to go through a hard time. We're going to go through rough times, and we're going to go through isolated times. But the thing is, you've got to watch your mental health as well. So, look, don't let it get to you. I sit in every category that I could get this virus and get carcass. I've got AIDS, I've got heart, I've got lungs, I've got immune system, the cancer system. Don't give a shit. It's not going to get me. You've got to think that way, folks, and you just got to keep your spirits up and don't become negative about the whole thing. Hello? Have I gone onto an island or something?
I'm waiting for someone else to talk.
I was being a good girl, being quiet, because I've just read something from Scott Morrison that's made me quite angry. So right. I'm just like,
Well, look, folks, we might just leave it there for now. What's going to happen with the CrowCast going forward is that we're going to continue to go on Tuesday night for no other reason that we are a little bit of a community, and a lot of us are going to be doing it tough over the next few months, and even if there's no footy to talk about, and even if AFL Evolution turns out to be shit and we give it up after a week, you know, I think any community needs to pull together when things are a bit difficult, and I think the CrowCast community is no different. I will have Discord open 24/7. You can log in through Discord, and there's a link on our Twitter profile. I'll put a link on our website and also on our Facebook page. You can, anytime you're struggling, we've got Crow's Chat 24/7. Anytime you're struggling, just hop on there, say g'day. Unless I'm asleep, I'll be around, and I'm sure at various stages other Crowcasters will be around. So use it as a bit of a community port, if you like, and you know, let's look after each other for the next couple of months because it's going to be pretty dodgy.
Yep, but we'll come out. We will come out of it. We'll come out the other end, and you just have to believe that because we will.
Yep.
Yeah,
agreed.
Take care of each other. Take care of your loved ones. Check in on your neighbours, and just even if you get together like a phone tree or things like that, just do things to help each other out.
Yeah, look at what we've done in our family. We've created on Messenger with a family chat group because we've made a pact that we won't be seeing each other, so we don't want to give it anybody, just in case one of us has got it. And, they've got quite a large family with kids and grandkids and all the rest of it. So we've got a family chat in a messenger, and it's going non-stop all the bloody time. And it's good. I've actually speaking to them more than I ever did. So, look.
I bet they enjoy that, Macca.
No. Mate, I am the least contributor.
All right.
I save all my golden thoughts to myself. No, everybody's having a good time. They're putting up jokes and laughing and all the local gossip, what's going on in their lives, etc., etc. And I know more about them now than I did before. So, don't go visiting just in case. Just no contact. But make sure you keep in touch with everybody, and that way, you'll feel better. They'll feel better. And so don't go into a deserted island. Just keep communicating, via online.
Very true. Mac, all the very best to you over the next few days. We'll obviously see you next Tuesday, assuming that you're wanting to come on again.
Happy to come on, mate. Happy to come on.
In the meantime, all the best to you and Mrs. Macca and your family. Nikki, same to you. Keep your chin up, sunshine, and we'll see you next Tuesday. And I didn't mean that as a euphemism.
I'll try.
And we still got Donkey?
Yeah, Doc's still here, mate. And things are just a little bit more willing than they were a few days ago up there, Donkey, in Northern Territory. Just
starting to tick up the cases, but lucky for us, there's no community transmission yet. But everything's basically shut down. So if I'll be on next week. As long as my wife hasn't stabbed me in the next over the next 7 days.
Oh well, in that case, it's been nice knowing you.
Yeah, so see you later.
And to Peter and his family, all the very best. Peter's wife is a teacher, of course, as he mentioned, and I can't imagine how difficult that job is at the moment. So all the very best to Mrs. Pete and all their family there as well.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we'll leave it there. Sorry, Nick, you got a parting shot?
No, I was just going to say, well said, but I am part of another online community where we've got a particular channel where we're putting all the good things that are happening and from people who are in lockdown and things that are free. It's all been collated together. I'll ask permission if I can share that spreadsheet, and I'll pop it somewhere up for people to see. If you need a break and you need a bit of a smile or to get away from a few things, I found it to be really beneficial. So
well, I know one good thing. Like I thank my lucky stars that I'm not in the same chat group as Macca, to be honest. But
I'll give you hell, mate.
Now, look, to everyone who's listening, either live or on demand, thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you so much for supporting us week in, week out. It's great to see people starting to embrace Discord. As I said, hop on there anytime you like, and someone will be around. It'll ding us, and we'll come and say g'day. But to all our patrons, to all our past sponsors, thank you so much. Everyone, please take care. I'm rambling on now, so I'm going to shut up, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, night all.
Night all.
See ya.